So here's a crash course in the final grammar point we went over before we went on break this semester, which was the polite past tense. So whenever you conjugate anything in Japanese, you generally have to start by breaking the word down into the category it belongs to, and those are either nouns and not adjectives, e-adjectives, or verbs. So for nouns and not adjectives, if you want the positive past, so was noun or was adjective, just use deshita at the end instead of des. Sensei des, sensei deshita. Is a teacher, was a teacher. For the negative, we start by doing the same thing we do with the present negative. So we add ja or dewa, as in ja nai desu, dewa nai desu, ja arimasen, dewa arimasen. But then instead of using nai desu, we use nakatta desu. Instead of using arimasen, we use arimasen deshita. Either one is fine, but don't mix them up. So if you want to say, I was not a teacher, sensei dewa arimasen deshita, sensei ja arimasen deshita, sensei ja nakatta desu, and sensei dewa nakatta desu are all ways that you can do that. For e-adjectives then, to make the positive past, so was adjective, take that final e at the end of the adjective, change it to katta, and then put des back on. So oishii desu is delicious, oishikatta desu was delicious. For the negative past, was not adjective, just take that negative present, kunai desu, right? Oishiku kunai desu, oishiku arimasen, either one of those, and do the same thing we did with nouns. Make nai desu nakatta desu, or arimasen deshita. So the actual negation that we use for all of these word types is the same. It's either nakatta desu or arimasen deshita, right? That's the past negative. The question is how we connect it. For nouns and adjectives, you have to connect it via ja or dewa, and then for e-adjectives, you connect it by changing the final e to ku. Finally, for verbs, the positive past is just mas becomes mashita, tabemashita, I ate. And for the negative past, masen becomes masen deshita. So tabemasen deshita, I did not eat. Now to finish, I'm just going to do quick common errors I see made with each of these types. For nouns and non-adjectives, by far the most common error I see is people mixing the two types up. So they'll say ja nai deshita or ja arimasen katta or something like that. Just don't do that. Keep the two separate is going to be key. Although another thing I should mention is also don't forget that some non-adjectives do end in e. So if you have a word like kirei, pretty, you don't use the e-adjective thing for it. It's an adjective. So it's kirei ja arimasen deshita or kirei deshita. We don't say kirei katta desu or anything like that. For e-adjectives, the most common error by far, and actually I'd say it's the most common error I see in the entire first year of teaching Japanese, is people just attaching deshita to the positive e-adjective to make was e-adjective. So you can't say things like oishii deshita. I wish you could, it'd make life easier, but you can't, so remember it has to be oishikatta desu, etc. If you really want to get this down, I recommend just picking an e-adjective and practicing all the conjugations that are polite just to get yourself used to it. Start with something easy like atsui, so atsui desu, atsukunai desu, atsukatta desu, atsukunakatta desu, and then when you're feeling more confident, try some of the bigger words like atatakai, so you can get atatakai desu, atatakakunai desu, atatakatta desu, and atatakakunakatta desu. And once you get that flow going, you're never going to make the mistake. Finally, for verbs, I actually don't see many errors with the verbs with beginners, but when people start using the plain form, they start to mix the two, so make sure if you do know the plain form, say taberu as the plain form of to eat, you're not doing things like taberu deshita or taberu arimasen deshita or just forgetting that it's a verb. The past tense of plain form verbs has their own thing, which I'll probably make a video about sometime in the future anyway. So if you're just starting out in Japanese, I hope this helped you with your conjugation patterns. And if there's a grammar point you'd like me to go over, don't have to wait for me to cover in class. Feel free to leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. See you later.